Hello,
I'm messing
everyone.
with Tanner, guys.
Well,
bringing work today.
as everyone can probably see, Nate is currently not with us. He is taking a break for a little bit, and we're going to try to keep this ship on the road and not wreck it too bad. Tonight we just have a couple of people. We have Reedy, Ken, and Mr. T down there to keep everybody in line. And I guess we'll just jump straight to it. We're going to go over. We've got this new Kajabi up for. There's been some people to have a little bit of not necessarily issues, but they would like some guidance as far as using some of the software and such. So just as a quick, easy thing for people to use, we kind of put together a little bit of training material. And so, Ted, if you want to go over
Nate did a bunch of videos, and I think they're really fantastic for helping people understand how to use the free quote process and the software. And Lizzie and I watched them last night. I think to take the whole course took about an hour. We stopped and talked about it, of course, so maybe it was more like 2. But when I first clicked the link, this is where it took me. And I thought that I might take a couple of slides so that people are familiar with what's going to happen to get them into the course. So this is the first slide. And as you can tell, it's a basic standard format slide. We haven't even edited all the words on the page. Insert value to and all that stuff is still there. So, but it is free. And all you do is you enter in your email address, click sign up for free, and then you'll get an email in your inbox, which you may want to go look in your spam to make sure that it didn't get filtered. And then it'll take you to your courses. And we have the HVAC20 boot camp, which is really designed for people that are going to be salesperson 2, folks who have blower doors and are going to, be doing more of a light energy audit than people that are going to just be running free quotes. And then on the right is the free quote training. And so click on that and it gets you to here, which is the basics. And then you just click on the very first training module in the basics, and it's going to take you to this video. And this one I think is 4 minutes and 24 seconds. So the first class of the first modules is 4 minutes. So this is what it looks like. And you're in. And it also keeps track. Right here says how many lessons are completed. So this training module is 11 lessons. So if anybody has any questions on this throughout today's meeting, we're also pivoting back to more of our Monday night coaching and support, and then also open mat, so we're going to have a bunch of different things going on. But if people end up, trying to do free quote and having stories or having questions, we want you to feel free to come on Monday and ask those questions, because we're going to be here to help you. So that's all I got. I'm going to hand it back over to Tanner. Thank you.
Can I chime in? One of the nice things is if you don't have a sales process already, as a great many contractors do not, if you just rely on talking to the customer, trying to convey that you're an expert on the topic, and then as many of the traditional sales processes go, you show them the features of your equipment. This is a much better script to follow, and you don't have to do it word for word. Nobody wants to do a word for word presentation. That's stiff. The customer knows it, it's uncomfortable. This is simply a method, a process that those words get used pretty frequently, but it's a process of helping the customer decide what their goals are through the use of questions, offering some tests, and if they decline the tests, that's recorded, and then the responsibility is theirs for not having that discovery made during the process. And it helps you go from point A to point B to the end so that you can then offer the customer some options, which is what everybody does. But this is a nice, straightforward path to follow. And there's a little room for deviation, but once you're comfortable with it, it's very easy to make it your own. Put it in your own words. Tanner, I don't hear you. Are you muted?
Oh, I'm accidentally muted myself. Thanks. But I mean, really, it ties in similar to really anything. Like any large scale business always has like systems and processes, SOPs, things to that nature for people to follow. And the whole purpose is to have repeatable results. And I mean, let's step outside of just this in particular, but just take what we do as a business. If you have a SOPs and processes and systems for your service techs for when they go out to do a service call, if there's already here's the way that our company does. We don't have every single tech doesn't have his own way of doing things. If it's really uniform, it makes things more repeatable. You can then shape the actual branding and image that your company showcases. It makes it to where if you run into problems, it's like, hey, for some reason we keep running into issues here. You can easily or more easily find what those problems are and correct them because okay, everybody's doing this, and we all run into this same problem, so you can narrow in as to what happened and why, and for those corrections. And so, I mean, it's not just for sales, but that kind of applies to anything and everything within business. And I think that's
so
really.
I'm hearing that Nexstar has service cards, and apparently those service cards are pretty awesome for the techs because they basically lay out a repeatable process every time. Now they don't have to follow that process, but they have to get the information. So long as their manager's doing their job, he's training the techs to make sure that they get the information. And if they want to deviate from the process periodically, because, you got to work, you're on, who knows what's going on at the house or with the homeowner. But at the end of the day, you get to go back to that ticket and make sure that, it's like the checklist manifesto and following a checklist before you take an airplane off the runway. You have a process that's repeatable and documented, then you know that you've done your side of the job. And that's kind of what we did with the Comfort Consult, but we didn't do it with the free quote. And so we left everybody vulnerable for what at that time was 70 to 80% of their leads. And now that we've done free quote and you guys are running it, well, at least with Reedy's feedback, more than 90% of his leads now are going free quote.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And Ted, you mentioned the tech side of it, because a lot of techs would rather fix things than talk to customers. And this gives them it gives them a really solid way to talk to customers and
show interest.
It's in language for both of them. The tech doesn't have to become a salesman.
Right.
He is in fact becoming a salesman, but without without feeling like he's wearing a plaid sports coat
Right.
and white slacks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, as salesman in the good sense, as in what it actually should be, not
Consultant.
not in a situation of salesman of being the guy that goes in and convinces people to buy things that they don't need, and
Yes.
that type of thing, which is two separate things. And I think that's really
What's
what
it going to
a lot of
take
techs
to
hate.
get you to make a decision today?
Yes.
Right. I got to go check with my manager.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a comfortable way for a technician to talk to a customer about a sale without having to feel that they're putting pressure on anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And the one thing, and talking to people about the Nexstar service card, the only things that we need that sound like they're missing are the 4 questions quiz and taking static pressure every time.
Yep.
So, Reedy,
Yeah.
did you have anything today you wanted to talk about or ask about?
I'm listening right now. I'm thinking about a few things. I'll just wait to comment as it comes up.
Oh, Reedy's got a story he wants to tell, but we're going to have to poke him for it.
There's just not enough pain right now.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. I'll hand it back over to Tanner because I think he had something that he saw today.
Oh yeah. I guess we'll get into that. It's just kind of a funny thing of, I'm not gonna link it or name exactly what it was, but it was just a funny article of a company that was, I mean, to me it come off as a kind of a sales pitch for ERVs in a sense. And it was just a couple of things of where it was rattling off things that ERVs supposedly do. And one of the things being dehumidify. And I just thought that was that would be a good topic just to kind of hit on for a little bit, even though, I mean, we've already done an episode on ERVs. So if you're wanting an in-depth, want something with direction to where you can follow a lot better, you might be worth checking that one out. But I'm just going to kind of riff on this just because it's
all of
funny
these
to
old
me.
videos are on our YouTube channel. So you can go to the YouTube channel and scroll down them. Sorry, Nick Tanner, go ahead.
Oh, you're fine. I just more or less just kind of laughing at the idea of how, and it's actually fairly common that some people, when they hear the marketing material of ERVs, they relate to what they're being told to, oh, that means it dehumidifies. When in reality, I mean, we all know ERVs, they add humidity to the space. It adds latent load. The only question is, how much can that be reduced? That's the whole point of an ERV, is to try to just reduce the amount that's being introduced. It doesn't eliminate it, and it doesn't bring that load negative. It like doesn't dehumidify. It just adds hopefully less. Granted, there's all the other things that we've already touched on to be, is it worth it? The whole point is that it's supposed to save money, so does it actually save money? Is it worth it in the sense of, does it do something that alternatives can't and such, which is a totally different
The answer is
topic,
no to all those things,
yeah.
just to be a spoiler.
Yeah, pretty much. But
I mean, if you have a hose pointing in your window and you don't want to get water all over your floor, use a bucket.
yeah.
Don't let that moisture get all over the house and then run around with a towel. HRV or ERV is bringing a tremendous amount of moisture into your house, and it's not dehumidifying the airflow. It's bringing that moist air into the house, and it gets mixed all around the house, and then maybe if it's lucky, it gets dehumidified.
Yeah.
Whereas a ventilating dehumidifier takes that high moisture content airflow and squeezes the moisture out of it as it's coming in before it has the opportunity to get spread around the house.
Yeah, I think that guy who put that article, he was thinking about just the opposite of what you said. He was thinking about that the only air that could possibly get dehumidified would be the air that is brought in initially because of the mixing of the temperatures, and
Yeah.
I think that he confuses that and makes it as if it's only little bit of air in that small spot. You can't, Tanner, you hit him right. You said you cannot add humidity and take humidity away at the same time. And
Yeah.
that's the truth. I mean,
Yeah.
it,
Yeah. Well,
it's ludicrous.
you can't use moisture to dehumidify. Like that's not how it works.
Yeah.
Uh, it's just it gets conflated and it's super common. Like a lot of people, it's just kind of it's not really people don't think about it a whole lot. It's just kind of a looming thought that's just kind of exists of, oh, well, if you use an ERV for, ventilation strategy, well, then it will dehumidify that air as it's coming in. It's like, well, there's a big difference in, dehumidifying air within the space and actually using it as a because it was the point was saying that ERVs are a method of humidity control, which
Right.
is literally the total opposite. Like if if you're trying to avoid mold, which is what it was hinting towards, and you need to control humidity, adding more humidity is not going to help you control anything. It's just going to make it worse. And so that's a dangerous thing to conflate. I mean, how many homeowners could potentially hear something like that and go, "Oh, well, I have a humidity problem and I need, I've got a foamed house and now I have a humidity problem and I heard that I need fresh air and this ERV seems like it's going to dehumidify and it's going to bring in fresh air. I should do that." And then
Oh,
what
you
happens
hit
when
it,
they
Tanner.
yeah. And then what
You
happens when they
hit
throw
it.
that in?
It's not. It's what they're doing is they're conflating two different problems.
Yes.
If you
Yeah.
need fresh air, that's a fresh air problem. And if you have a humidity problem, that's a humidity problem. But unless the air outdoors is drier than the air indoors, your humidity problem doesn't get solved by bringing air from outdoors in. Your fresh air problem can get solved by doing that, but your humidity problem is going to get worse.
I just looked at the data from Carrier's ERVs, and they were talking about it only adds like 326 BTUs. I mean, that's not enough of a load to add
Yeah.
to anything. I
Yeah.
mean, to make it move the dial in one way or the other.
We've just
Yeah.
had bad experiences with ERVs where, particularly in shoulder seasons, they throw relative humidity. Like one house went over 60%, and we're like, "Oh God, what's going on here?" And is mold going to form? Is condensation going to form? It was a nightmare. And if we had just gone with a ventilating dehumidifier, it would have solved it.
Yeah.
Actually, in that house, if we had just gone with a scuttle, it probably would have solved it. Because
Yeah.
the ERV was just bringing in too much air.
Yeah. I mean, because you're dumping unconditioned air directly into the space. It's not going through any conditioning before it gets there. So, it's not like dumping that in. There's other factors that can then play into effect before that air either mixes well into the space, assuming the space is already in controlled. If the space isn't being well controlled, well, now it's just contributing to the problem. And then it's got to make its way back to the HVAC system to hopefully then get in control. That's just a lot of potential issues.
Well, it's not getting controlled. It's not getting controlled if there's no load, because that HVAC system isn't removing any moisture without load.
Yeah, so this is an interesting comment of
Yeah, that's a
I mean,
shame. That's a
yeah,
shame. That's a whole bunch of people getting on a bandwagon.
yes. Well, it's just a
Yeah.
quick knee-jerk jump to. It's a you know, hey, these buildings need fresh air. So what do we need? And then everybody's just kind of spitballing answers. Oh, well, I heard ERV is the best way to go about it. Oh, well, okay, well, that's what we're going to do. Like that's the quick mind thought process of going into that. We're not actually breaking down as to, okay, what is it that we truly need? Why do we need it? And then what are the simplest forms of delivering that with as low of a failure rate as possible? That's
And-
not the direction it's thought of.
And how
This is
much?
a very expensive way of delivering fresh air that also is likely to make your humidity control less controllable.
You have to understand the side effects of bringing in fresh air, outdoor air, which carries humidity. So Cindy's point is very well made. Oh, okay. So is this one saying that the Zephyr was responsible for bringing in a lot of humidity?
Yes. It means
That's
that Matt Reisinger might be realizing that an ERV was a dumb way to go about doing this.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
So-
Zender.
Yeah,
Yes,
which is a
I'm sure he
really
meant Zender. Yeah, Zender.
which is a really
And-
expensive ERV, by the way.
Very expensive. Can't get any more efficient than a Zender.
Mm-hmm.
So it's efficient at transferring moisture. I mean, you're putting moist air into moist air. There's only so much moisture that can go across from one airstream to another, because the airstream going out isn't necessarily dry. I mean, if his house is 60% relative humidity, then the exhaust flow is 60%. That 60% isn't going to be drying the incoming airflow.
Yeah.
Not below 60%.
Yeah.
So so that's
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, I think I seen a video of Matt's setup, and he was also using like the Carrier mini split outdoor unit air handler combo. So like the Medea
so
brand.
is
So
that
it was,
terrible?
yes. So he was already
That's a
using
terrible
something that was poorly set
dehumidification
up for
unit?
dehumidification, which is
Qualifies
why he
for
needs
the-
multiple dehumidifiers. And then he throws in
Right.
an ERV on top of it. So it's just this concoction of a lot of potential
A
problems. And so the
bunch
question,
of dumb stuff.
yeah,
A bunch
and so
of
you're
dumb
going to
stuff.
have that overlap. Like that overlap is going to cause problems, even if you're throwing a lot of dehumidification at it. And so the question would be to look at his setup and really to ask the question of, okay, how much did this cost in total, and how much pain did that cost? And look at that number, and then go, okay, if I had to do it different, could I do it for equal to or less than? And
Well, and
I
a
think you'd find the
badass
answer is
system, badass
yes.
Carrier, either 5-stage or green speed with reheat dehumidification and a scuttle to outdoors
Yep.
might have been all he needed. It would have cost half as much as he spent.
Yeah.
Hey, I bet it qualifies for the IRA though.
Oh,
Well,
there you go.
Don't forget the free money.
So
I mean,
does
that-
my
that
green
fixes it all.
speed.
Oh, it's a Mitsubishi. Okay. I mean, crap. Basically the same thing. I mean, those are terrible at dehumidification as well. Step up your game.
Yeah, but
Mitsubishi.
they got the name. They got the name recognition.
Yeah.
At least it'll, as long as it's installed well, it'll last a long time. It's just
Right.
that might be the problem. Maybe if it dehumidifies poorly, you would like it to die sooner, so then you could replace it again and do
With a
away with
good
all these
system.
problems. But it's whatever.
So Ed, can you bring up the question from LinkedIn?
Yes. Sorry.
Uh,
You hadn't finished that?
Yes. Sorry, if it looks funny, I'm looking over at my second screen. So the point, I'd love to know your opinions on how these can or should be integrated into the HVAC system. So by and large, we're saying not.
Don't use them.
Yes.
Don't use it.
Don't use them.
And another aspect of it is that too often ERVs are not properly balanced. They're a whole nother set of technical challenges that have to be addressed. You have to balance them and service them, which rarely happens. So you have a very expensive piece of equipment sitting there, either
Not working.
harming conditions or just being turned off.
Yeah. Yeah. And like the alternatives to look at, like, anytime, I mean, if you have to bring in fresh air, new building codes are requiring very tight buildings, they're going to need fresh air. The question isn't that, oh, just don't install an ERV, period, and just do away with it. No, it's like, no, there's ERV, and then what are the other alternatives? And what does that look like? So comparatively, like
Yes.
we've mentioned, just a fresh air scuttle, return duct from outside to your return duct before the filter, something as simple as that. And that's pretty minimal on cost. And so you have enough wiggle room in the cost savings of not going the ERV route, to where if you have situations to where you end up needing more, it's not very difficult to add more. You can add fresh air ventilators to it. You can
Well,
add
and you'd
more
like to
ducts.
have
You
a
can add
haven.
automation.
You could
Yeah.
have a haven on there, so you could have automation and tracking of the indoor. You can track the air quality before the scuttle, so it's the returning air from the house, and then have that decide whether or not it should open.
Yes. And so when you don't go that route of ERV, it just opens up so much more money to
A
put
lot
towards
of
other
money
things
left
to make
over.
it, so it's more beneficial. So you can get, not only do you get something that functions better, not only is it cheaper, and not only does it do more, but it gives you less of a headache. It's not going to break as easy. Like, there's just so many pros
And peace of
to
mind,
alternatives.
because now you know the indoor air quality is good because you're monitoring.
Yep.
Instead of just guessing and hoping and keeping your fingers crossed.
And to this comment, which is very true, the thing to really think about in that regard is not only for dehumidification, like how do you handle that? Well, a dehumidifier isn't the only route. Properly sized HVAC is going to be your best, or you're going to be your most efficient way to dehumidify a house. You're just dealing with a lot bigger equipment, bigger coils, to where, like, dehumidifiers, look at them, look how small the coils are. Like, to pull moisture out of air in a large house with such a small box, like, that's hard work. There's a reason why they tend to not last very long. It's not because, manufacturers suck at their jobs and they can't build good equipment. No, they build really good equipment. It's just, it's a really difficult job to dehumidify and to keep up. So if you can not have to rely on a dehumidifier alone to handle that, such as going the, ducted mini route, like the Mitsubishi, like the Medea and such, when you use those units, it pretty much dumps all of the responsibility onto the dehumidifier to maintain humidity, and it's just a very difficult job. So looking at routes of going, okay, we have to put in HVAC anyway, so what are the best HVAC choices to reduce that latent load as much as possible, so that way we don't have to rely on other means to control it. And having a electric reheat is just kind of that special sauce to really eliminate the need for dehumidifiers in general. Outside of retrofit systems already in place that's got a humidity problem and you need to get it in control, then that's where dehumidifiers are great all day long.
And if you're using a lot of energy dehumidifying, you probably want to do a blower door test, because you might be trying to dehumidify the outdoors.
Yes.
Dehumidifiers should principally be for low load times. If your air conditioner is properly sized and adjusted, it should be removing humidity during normal run times. But shoulder seasons, evenings, rain conditions, when the air conditioner isn't running, that's when the dehumidifier should be helping out in order to bring things back into the desired environment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not being fully reliant. That's a good point.
And of course,
Jimmy,
none of
did
this.
you have something you were saying? Because I saw your mouth moving. Yep, still can't hear you. Nothing.
Not yet.
All right. Well, we'll take a note of what it is you were going to say, so you don't forget when you get
How
this
about
thing
now?
figured out.
Now
Oh,
we
yeah,
got
there you go.
I just had to. Okay. Well, I was going to say too. I see so many people who put them in and then they're installed or piped incorrectly, and then it actually increases people's humidity. It can create problems when it's poorly installed too. It's not a
Yeah,
silver bullet, you know?
that is very true.
So you're at the mercy of the person who's putting it in and how well they install it.
Yeah.
Well, and Jason's right here is as an industry can't even get expensive high-end heat pumps charged correctly or airflow dialed in. How the hell are you going to install an ERV properly?
Mm-hmm.
You mean it's not plug and play?
Yeah, well, I mean, charging a high-end heat pump is astronomically easier than doing any type of test and balancing of anything. Like, I think it's a given. So, I mean, that just kind of goes to his point even further. I mean,
Yeah.
And I think the cost of dehumidification is much cheaper than mold abatement. But if people are seeing a lot of expense associated with dehumidification, I mean, the most expensive system we've seen out there doing dehumidification, I think, is under $400 a year on reheat dehumidification. That person, they were opening windows and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. So,
yeah,
I don't think that it's a huge amount of costs. And the other thing you're finding is there's going to be some savings on the sensible side because a well dehumidified house, you can keep it 75 degrees instead of 68.
yes. And I mean, maybe that's something we can also touch on with the reheat is it really all comes down to, like, you have tools to do things, and any tool that's misapplied is going to be a problem. So, for example, like we've talked about with dehumidifiers are a great tool, but if it's misapplied, it's going to cause problems. And so, like with electric reheat, I mean, we're not going to call anybody out per se, but there's been some people to gripe about that electric reheat just costs so much to use. And when you look at how they attempted to use it, it's like, oh, well, you used an inverter system that has a really high sensible heat ratio, and so it dehumidifies poorly to begin with. And in order for you to maintain humidity, you have to have this poorly dehumidifying unit run nonstop all the time, and then you have to make up for all that sensible cooling that you're doing. So of course it's going to be expensive because you set it up like a moron. And so, I mean, I guess the moral to the story is recognize the pros and the cons of each tool, recognize what tools are not worth using, ERVs, and when you do apply those tools, apply them correctly. Think about everything as a whole. Don't just go, oh, here's a magic bullet, let me just go throw this in, it's going to make all the problems magically go away, because that's not how it works. And if it does, you just got lucky.
We can also refer back to our series of videos as far as pressurizing a house, depressurizing, or sucking and blowing, because this all came about from the need for ventilation. As you ventilate, if you're increasing humidity, you're actually causing a problem. So
Yes.
either the reheat is a solution. In the absence of reheat, a ventilating dehumidifier will either
Mitigate.
pressurize the house or reduce depressurization with the added benefit of dehumidifying. So that's actually that's hitting the target.
Yes.
So this is also Cindy. So we're not paying Cindy for these questions, just to make that clear right now. But yeah, Cindy,
You
thank
should.
you. This is
Really good
actually
points.
part of what the HVAC20 process is designed to assist with. It assists with helping people decide on appropriate equipment and appropriate installation And if the homeowner, who's the person who ultimately makes the decision, decides they don't want to follow the logical quality install path, it's clear that they made that decision and document it. What we're
Yes.
trying to do is create more of an adult-adult relationship between the homeowner and the HVAC professional, so that the HVAC professional is a professional instead of a sales scammer, and allow them both to walk a path together to best fit outcomes for them. So air source, if you look at these things as products instead of solutions, then they just get plugged in instead of designed and installed.
Yes. And also, if these are viewed that way, like homeowners are going to view it as products, and
As
so
a plug-in.
yes. So, like what to her point, the big problem that we're going to see a big wave of is you're going to have northern climates who are having these ERVs and heat pumps installed, and they're going to have really poor outcomes. And so, what are they going to immediately point fingers to? The product, and the only product they know is their heat pump. They're going to go, well, I just built this brand new house. It's supposed to be great and wonderful. I installed the best ventilating system. I installed the best heat pump, but it was misapplied. It was
The
poorly
best
installed.
single stage heat pump.
Yes, in their mind, that's what they're thinking. They're thinking,
Yeah.
I got this. I've got the best, and so this should be like the top of the top tier experience in their mind is
The
what they're
biggest heat
expecting.
pump I could find. This is
Yes.
the biggest heat pump I could find. How come it doesn't work?
And then they have terrible experiences. And so then they're going to go, well, this is so stupid. Before, my gas furnace never had these problems that I'm currently experiencing. And in their mind, they're just going to relate to heat pumps, or maybe they conflate it to an ERV. Not likely. They're probably going to blame the heat pump because contractors are going to be blaming the heat pump. And it's just going to cause a cluster of a bunch of people going, wow, now I'm reluctant to actually buy the thing that is truly the best option for me. It's just this bad experience has made it to where I'm skeptical of it, and I don't want that anymore.
Yeah. Homeowner will blame the person who can't defend himself, and then the contractor will blame the person who can't defend himself. So everybody's going to blame the HVAC.
Yes.
Tanner, I was going to say I'm dealing with that situation right now, except they have a gas furnace instead of the heat pump, and they're blaming their spray foam. But
yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah. And
yeah, so that spray foam job's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
They chose open cell though.
They have an ERV. Is it balanced?
Oh.
Nope.
Oh.
Huh.
Is there any dehumidifying going on?
Nope.
It's crazy the patterns you see when you pay attention.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Have they been tracking the relative humidity? Are they having the same problem Allison Bales has with his house?
I think they do. We have some tracking.
So it's over the course of the day.
Yeah, we have some.
The moisture is being driven out of the foam. The foam absorbs the moisture as the roof cools, and then it's driven out of the foam into the house, driving the relative humidity up during the day.
Yeah.
Allison just puts dehumidifiers in his attic as a Band-Aid, which might work.
There's another aspect to new construction in that quite often the homeowner never talks to the HVAC contractor. The general contractor uses his guy.
Yeah.
He's used for 10 or 15 years, and there are no options offered except perhaps going from an 80% furnace to a 95% furnace, 97%. If that's even offered, but everything is focused on lowest cost, and homeowners
there's no other way to differentiate.
They're not given any options. The contractor has no opportunity to present the benefits of a well-designed and installed system when everybody's looking at, oh, what's the bottom line? And that other one's too expensive. So we've got
Yep.
those two markets. There's
Yes.
retrofit and there's new construction.
Yes.
So Timmy, the other thing I think Ellison did is he put a bath fan in his attic.
I think that's
And I
not
think
a bad idea.
I think he has the bath fan on a sensor. And once the relative humidity in that attic goes above a certain point, that bath fan comes on and starts evacuating the just negative pressure in the attic. Sucks the, because that ends up being where all the most moist air is in the house. So it's
Right.
sort of a convoluted approach. I mean, a badass system would have been perfect for him, probably. The other problem is if he'd gone with closed cell instead of open cell, he wouldn't have had that sponge in his attic.
Right. He would still need a dehumidifier or something. Sounds like.
Still need. I think. I mean, he's in Atlanta or someplace, right? So
right.
If you're not going to get the equipment that can do reheat, there's nothing that really has enough latent anymore, is there? Reedy?
Not.
No.
Yeah, probably not.
I mean, we're all East Coast, so nothing for an East Coaster.
I mean, when it's 90 plus sensible heat ratio, 0.9,
You're going to have to dehumidify somehow, even if you get the equipment to run continuous.
Yeah, you can only go so small with the equipment. And
Yeah.
You're right. You have to have some form of dehumidification.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the real game is like, especially if you have the ability to get a 5-stage or the modulating, heat pump with electric reheat, is it really just becomes a game of, with any selection, whether it's single stage up to that, is you're trying to just minimize the time spent outside of the ideal range, because you're going to be outside of that range for a period of time. It doesn't matter what system you have. And so if you can just minimize that to a small amount that makes it, just basically doesn't matter at that point, like that's really the goal. Like, let's say you spend a collective amount of 1 day a year outside of your range, you're never going to have a problem there. It's the problems start to occur when you stay outside of that range for long periods of time. And so it's not even to the point of trying to keep it on a dime, keeping it perfect for 365 days. It's just, how do we, keep it out of range?
Yeah. It's not a problem
times
that houses get wet. It's a problem that they don't get dry.
Exactly. And
so
I mean,
if you hit 60 or 65% relative humidity for a couple hours a week, that's fine, just so long as you get it back to 50.
Yeah. And to kind of piggyback off of Jason's comment here as well, I mean, how many times have we been driving around and you see a new construction house and you see the choices being made, or you see a brand new house that doesn't have a roof and it's pouring down raining. They've got the OSB sheathing up and it's like, oh, that's just a massive moisture sponge. And are they going to dry that out afterwards? No. And then what happens? They finish the house and they put on a Goodman AC with 80% furnace for it to never actually get dried out. And then we wonder why there's, moisture problems right after that. I mean, it's just the overlapping margins of error that then build up to problems. So it's never a singular issue. Usually it's just all these things compounding. It's, using open cell foam on your roof deck. It's using oversized single stage equipment. It's throwing in that ERV. And it's like all these things compound to cause problems. And it puts you in a situation where, sure, you may have a problem and you want to try to fix it, but only solving one of those, problems is not going to actually get rid of the issue. You have to actually address all of them and get everything back in order. And that's going to cost a lot of money. And so people are not likely to want to do that. And so it's just creating this atmosphere of just poor experiences for everybody all the way around. And it's done because right out the get-go, things were poor decisions made at the design phase.
Yeah, because ultimately,
I pivoted. Go ahead, Reedy.
ultimately, you're going to pay one way or the other. You can pay
Yes.
up front, or you can pay over 10 years when you have to change it out again, or 5 years when
Yeah.
it breaks down, or when you have to go to the doctor continuously, or when you got mold, or whatever. You're going to pay one way or the other.
You're going to pay with money or pain.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just whichever
right.
you prefer to pay with.
Yeah. So, Jason, on this issue, I've actually gone full circle. I'm now a fan of 80% furnaces.
With variable speed blowers.
What's that?
With a variable speed blower.
Non-restrictive heat exchangers, the 80%ers that these guys are putting in, oftentimes the furnace never fires. So does it matter how efficient it is? Or if it only burns 100 therms a year? It's actually
Yeah.
the airflow of the less restrictive heat exchanger is a good thing, because the heat exchanger is not what's the word? Not anachronism, but it's the dinosaur in the equation, because the heat pump's running most of the time. And you could take the money for that 80% or the incremental money, and maybe you get a 2-stage heat pump instead of a single stage.
Yeah.
So this has been a pivot for me, and it took me a while because it put me in dissonance. I was uncomfortable with it, but the longer I thought about it, the more I was like, yeah. And then on some of these hybrids that we've installed, people were telling us how little gas they were using. It's like, well, what's the point of a 97% or even a 90%? Doesn't matter if it's 50%.
Yeah. Well, I've always been a lot more of a fan of using an 80% furnace for hybrids than high efficiency anyways, just because there's not much of a gain of going from 80% to 98%.
Rebate money.
And this is the reason.
Yeah.
This is the reason to go to a 90%er. If
That's
you're
right.
doing new house, or there's some kind of a major obstacle to doing the venting.
Or if you're using communicating equipment. I don't think I've seen any 80% furnaces that.
Yeah, Carrier Infinity has
So if you're going-
80%ers.
Oh, do that. Okay. If you're going modulating with a modulating heat pump, you're going to have a communicating furnace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So
in those
the
scenarios,
Carrier-
it's probably not going to run at all anyways. So
Right.
at that point, I mean, if you wanted to buy a furnace for whatever reason, well then, I mean, I don't care if you spent more money to get a furnace you're not going to use. Like,
Well, so
you
the
know.
reason these guys in Louisville and Indy are selling hybrids instead of heat pumps is the panel.
Fair.
So in a case where somebody would like to have a heat pump, but it's going to require a panel upgrade, that becomes a pretty big barrier. And
Yeah.
so they miss out on the reheat dehumidification, but that's disclosed and they own it. So if they got to get a ventilating dehumidifier after the fact, that's something that they're prepared for before they make that decision. Because obviously a ventilating dehumidifier is going to probably cost as much as a panel upgrade. But if it's a dice roll versus a certainty, some people are going to roll the dice.
Yeah.
Well, you get IRA money for panel upgrades, right?
Oh,
yeah. The government's just going to pay for it. That's it. Nobody fix anything. Don't upgrade anything. Just wait, and the government will finally come around and pay for it for you because they're such nice people and they want what's best for you.
They're here to help.
Yeah.
I'm from the government. I got your money in my pocket, and I'm here to help.
Just close your eyes and bend over and don't ask questions.
It's got to feel good for me, not for you.
Let's see. Looking back, making sure we didn't miss any comments that came up.
Timmy, you got any good stories for us, or any learnings or Sandler's stuff that that helped you out?
I mean, I'm dealing with a project right now that we sold a comfort consult, or I sold a comfort consult for. I gave them a high price. They had a high score, like a 10 on their pain, because they're about 2 hours away from me. So I don't expect to do any work, but I wanted to get some.
Give them a path.
Yeah, give them a path. Get some testing. So yeah, I think we'll probably talk more about that in the future, but it's essentially a brand new house. People have lived in it a year. There's complaints of smell because it has open cell spray foam. There's a very big smell in their bedroom, and a smell from their basement. And they actually have had the house over a year, and they have never slept in their master bedroom because of the smell.
What does it smell like?
They say it smells like foam, smells like spray foam, like that's a chemical smell. And this is about a $1 million house. So not a cheap thing. And so I've been discovering, we did a lot of testing. I did some extra testing that's really not included in our comfort consult, because of the price I gave them. So gave them a little extra stuff, and it uncovered some things. But yeah, it's kind of a mess.
What are you learning about open cell foam and how to properly install it and how not to properly install it?
Well, I don't know I don't know. I mean, I still haven't had a situation.
You're not sure it's the foam?
I don't think it's the foam as much as maybe the people. I think maybe there's some issues with the foam. I think it's more the applicators, people who put it on. I think it's maybe more HVAC problems. I mean,
is the house running high relative humidity? So it's just VOCs in general.
It's tough to say. Yeah, it's tough to say because I mean they have some monitoring that I'm trying to dig through, but they haven't. They say the smell's bad, so they won't run their HVAC. And it increases when they run their HVAC, so they won't. Like, they're sleeping in their spare bedroom. They're sleeping in their first floor.
They're freezing and steaming, or what are they doing? They run in dehumidifiers. They do have a dehumidifier in their attic that they've ran to help with whatever. I mean, it's not a tight house. They have a monitor in there, and I think it helped, but I don't think it helped with the smell. I think it maybe helped with the humidity. So there's a lot. I mean, all you got to do is Go ahead, Reedy.
All you got to do is put in an ERV, and it'll work.
Right.
They have one, Reedy. They have one.
Of course they do. All these indoor air quality houses have ERVs. ERVs are causing the indoor air quality problems because they're dumping so much latent into the house.
Hold on, wait. They've had a consultation with someone else and said they needed a second one.
Oh my God.
And the house is leaky, you said?
It's roughly 3,000 square foot of living space, and the blower door is 1,800.
Oh, well, so it's pretty tight.
Yeah. That's
yeah.
I was about to make a joke to say that they need another one, and then you was like, "Oh no, there's somebody that actually gave it as a serious answer."
They have a basement system and an attic system, and the basement system has the ERV, and they say, "Oh, the smell is bad in the top, so they need an ERV in the top." So, has been a recommendation.
Sounds like a winner to me.
Yeah,
I'm sure it has nothing to do with that humidity is buoyant and floats to the top of the structure.
That would never be it.
Sure. And I mean, it's definitely probably not that high humidity causes foam to off gas faster, and probably has nothing to do with just humidity in general. I'm sure the HVAC size has nothing to do with it. Just throw another ERV.
It's
Sounds
not.
good to me.
It's not
probably got built in the rain, so there's a bunch of moisture in the and it didn't get built with plywood. It got built with chipboard.
Yeah, it's
actually just abandon the ERVs and go with a whole house fan.
That's not a bad idea.
That's actually old school, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
Which
suck
would be
that foam
fine.
smell and blow it right in the rest of the house.
Just keep all the windows and doors open. Just have a massive exhaust fan mounted into the attic and just, pull fresh air in from outside, flow it through the house, exhaust it out the top, keep the VOCs
So in
going
my
the wrong
day
other
and Ken's
direction.
day, that was a common thing is you open the windows in your attic
Yep.
and you got a whole house fan.
Tanner's giving reasons for oversized equipment now. Run it with the windows open.
Oh my God, those house fans they're great though, because they cooled the house off in about 20 minutes after the sun went down.
And brought in all of the latent heat. Pardon me, latent heat.
Yeah, both of them.
Yes.
And bugs.
Right.
So yeah, that's an interesting project where, yeah, it's a lot of responsibility,
Oh yeah.
but nothing was promised.
So what do you feel like the next step's going to be?
I think they do need some kind of. I think they're going to need some kind of dehumidification for their top floor system. I mean, the load calc I've done is they need 2 tons of AC with 60,000 BTUs of heat. Maybe it was even less than that, and they have 5 tons of AC with 120,000 BTUs of heat. So, I mean, it's the equipment's a year old, so probably change the equipment. They need some kind of dehumidification.
Start with the upstairs one. Get them a good system upstairs because that's where their problem is.
Right. Maybe a like a dehumidifier there. Trying to figure out how to challenge of dehumidify. Maybe they just need a separate one, like a room one in the attic, and then one for the rest of the house. They say they have a basement smell for their first floor, whichever. I don't quite understand that.
Once people get sensitized,
right,
it never goes away.
Right.
And
I think
then they end up being more sensitive than other people.
Right. But I think doing something with their basement, the duct leak is just awful there, like their open return. So I think having them having like a central return that we can seal up, to not try to pull any of that basement smell, and maybe convert that ERV to where it's not.
How about just abandon it?
Yeah, I was gonna say abandon it, or just make it to where it's only pulling in air and not exhausting air, or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Disable
like
the exhaust fan.
Right, and try to pressurize the top floor too with like a ducted dehumidifier or something.
Is there much stack effect going on?
I think they do have. I think they do. Especially too, I think they even have reverse stack effect at times, because the lady says she can sit at the bottom of the stairs. That's where their living room is set up, and she says it feels like, or seems like, the smell just comes right down the stairs sometimes, and just lingers where she's hitting from. So wouldn't be surprised with how loose it is and how oversized systems are, and they're only running like one of them at a time essentially.
Did you track much of the leakage? Makes me wonder if there's a considerable amount of it in the basement that's contributing to this flow.
Right. I did extra stuff. I did some like duct leakage testing, duct leakage to outdoors.
Yeah.
I did some pressure testing with ERV running and off, and systems running and off. So, yeah, there's definitely some imbalances too.
Yeah.
Of their goals, what was their pain scores for how bad they wanted to fix some of whatever they're naming their goals to be?
The smell, or the one score was a 10.
Okay, so they're on basically bleeding out on the table.
Yeah.
Well, they're not living in the master bedroom, so that's a lot of blood right there.
And they have a 1-year-old. They're sleeping in a room. They say the 1-year-old's room smells too. So they're sleeping in a guest room, the
Mm.
3 of them together, and and sometimes they sleep on the first floor. So yeah, they haven't been able to live in their $1 million house
Mm.
for almost a whole year.
Yeah.
Yep.
So really,
They need essential oils.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a good.
Yeah. So what, I mean,
So
really, it sounds like that it's really going to come down to having to basically go, hey, we've got a few factors of just HVAC in general,
yeah,
ventilation, humidity control, filtration. And we need to get these in check first before we can have any odds of success. So you tell me how far you want to go with this.
right.
Because
I think that the hang-up's going to be: are they going to try to have somebody else do the work, or are they going to try to get the builder or the HVAC installer or the phone people on the hook and have them fix stuff? And I
yeah,
think that's where they're kind of torn. I think they're willing to just bite the bullet and make the nightmare go away. But at the same time, I think they would like to get anything they can or out of it, and I don't blame them.
yeah. But I mean, it's
Tear
going to
J,
really,
this is a Tear J kind of example
yeah,
where you like never going to get the builder to fix it.
Right.
And you either have to move or fix it yourself.
yeah. And that's what I mean.
And it just, you got to go through the exercise of realizing that there's no way you get these monoliths out of the ground.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I mean, it just comes down to, is it worth the pain and headache to try to chase something that you're likely not to get, or do you just want to get it over with?
Right.
Pull
What's
the
going to
tooth.
what's going to cause more pain? The idea of having to pay for something that you've already paid for again, or the pain for having to go through all the headache of chasing something to then not get it at the end, to then have to pay for it anyways.
Anyway,
Right. And yeah, you ask them there, well, like, why are you, like, one of the questions, are you open to electrification? And they were, if it fixes our pain, we'll do whatever it takes, kind of thing. If it fixes the issue, we'll do it. So I mean, there's a lot of pain there. There's a lot of, willing to do
Yeah.
what it takes. It's
Well, Well, I guess you'll find out if that statement's true,
right.
yeah, thank you, bud.
because
Yeah.
sometimes people like to say, "Oh, well, I'll do whatever it takes," and then you say, "Well, here's the situation you currently have," and it's like, "Whoa, I was expecting it to be like $2,000."
Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. We'll see how it goes. Is it going to turn into, well, we'll do what the builder will let us do within their budget, but they seem to be very motivated to get it solved. But
I think what you do is like the Hail Mary of this is maybe to ask the builder how much they'll pay to make it go away. How much you want to pay to have me not bother you about this stuff anymore, and I'll go fix it, whatever it takes, and
Right.
you're off the hook. Because that way you may get some level of help.
Right.
Are you getting into it like that though, Tim? You're not
I'm
doing any
not-
of the work, are you?
I'm not doing any of the work. That was part of the why I charge a lot. I charge probably 4 to 5 times what we normally charge for a comfort consult to do, because they're 2 hours away, and like it just
The whole day and there's no sale.
right. And
Well.
it's a lot of
And a lot of work.
It's tough to do that.
So was it
Yeah.
like right out the gate? I mean, did they lay it out in the sense of, hey, we're not going to pay you to fix anything. We just want you to tell us what's wrong?
No,
No,
Tim
that
said
was-
he's not going to fix anything.
Right.
Okay.
That was my thought. I've done it. I did a project that was 2 hours from me, and it's tough. It's tough
Oh,
doing it
yeah.
every day. And, there's enough, I feel like I have enough work around here,
Mhm.
Now, the goal would maybe to be find somebody competent in the area and, make a sale, and get a commission or something like that, but even talking like there was some talk about maybe in my mind after doing this, should I have done maybe a comprehensive planning process? And Ted brought up, no, if you don't want to lead the job, or be in charge of the job, like there's no way to do that, being so far away. So there was some doubt in my mind that Ted was like, no, this is, no, like if you're not going to be involved like that, then it shouldn't be a comprehensive
A lot of
planning
this stuff
process.
has to be done just so.
Yeah.
And it's not going to be done just so if you're not there.
Right.
Yeah.
Comprehensive planning process, you got to get the loading order right, and invariably the wrong guy shows up at the wrong time, and he, the plumber wants to put the plumbing in before the wiring's done, or whatever.
Yeah, you got to babysit it.
You got to babysit it.
And I don't maybe if the money was right, but I really don't have any desire to babysit it being that far away.
I don't think they want to pay you. That'd be like $250 an hour to make that money right. I don't think they want to pay that.
Right. Well, maybe. I mean, maybe if it comes
end
to
up
that,
owing you more than the costs for the equipment.
Probably. But
well, it's good.
We'll see where things go. Yeah, I feel like this is a challenging project, and so I'm learning through it. And there was no promise. There was no, hey, we'll come out, we'll see what's going on, and we'll see if we can, there's no guarantee on solutions or anything like that. But they had done some consulting with another person in our industry, and they were recommending doing blower door testing, zonal pressure testing, the things that we do through our comfort console. So it was a perfect line up with that, and I think that person is also kind of bring me back your results, and then we can kind of consult more. So almost they kind of own more of that responsibility as well.
Sounds like if they're close and they want it, they can have it.
Right.
The responsibility, the business, whatever comes.
Yeah. Very much a hero.
So anybody else have anything? I thought I might have had a job for Ken in Cincy, but I'm not sure if that's going to work out. I think that Ronnie's company would like to have somebody who's able to do comfort consults there.
Oh, all right.
And I think they'd also like somebody that would be able to provide guidance and training. So like people could shadow you as you did them, which might be a fun. What's that?
That'll add to the cost.
Well, I think they'd be well served.
Oh, for sure.
But I don't know. They have a hole in their territory, and it's apparently a very busy office, and they could be running a lot of comfort consults. So,
he doesn't like.
So that's what I was talking to you about.
I see.
What'd you say?
Ronnie doesn't like to go to Ohio.
Oh, Ronnie doesn't like to go to Ohio, and he also doesn't. I mean, if he's in Ohio doing a comfort consult, that's 2 comfort consults he's not doing in Louisville.
Yeah.
So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for him or the company to be pulling him as a resource away from there. Even if he was into it. But we'll see. I haven't been successful getting anybody actually to embrace the free quote process besides you guys. And it's part of the answer to this. We've failed to get people to embrace the free quote process. And after 10 years, it's a little discouraging. And it'd be nice to see that the company is going to make money at some point. And it's discouraging that we can't see it happening. So, so he's taking a break, and hopefully I don't also take a break, because pretty soon all three of us take a break. But right now I don't feel like taking a break, so we keep going. And hopefully we'll figure out a way to get salespeople using free quote and then hearing their stories. And I mean, we had so much fun when you guys were just starting this and hearing all your stories and the mistakes that you'd make and how cool it was. So when you're like, oh, okay, I won't make that mistake again, and figured it out, and learning Sandler and the mindset shift. I'm sort of excited for a whole new group of people doing that. It's kind of boring to sit around in a room with a bunch of black belts. Not that I don't love you guys.
I feel like that's a dig now.
I don't know. It's just fun watching people learn, you know?
Mhm.
That it is. That it is.
It's been fun actually following along with Ronnie and Austin. And they're still listening to their Sandler every week. So anybody else, anybody here been listening to Sandler lately?
Ooh, I
See,
actually have to say it's been a while.
guys,
Probably been a month.
You guys are just your old hat at this. Anyway, so thank you guys for coming. Tanner, thanks for running it. And what do you want to do next week? You just want to play it by ear, or you got any thoughts?
I guess we we can just probably plan on another open mat, and then if anything pops up or changes in between now and then, we'll adjust as needed. So at least that's how I'm kind of feeling about it. Unless anybody else has any ideas or something they were wanting to do.
Well, this is where it starts, folks. The link to the free training looks like this. And if anybody has any questions, get a hold of any of us through social media or what have you. And I'll see you next week. I'm going to be in Florida.
Awesome.
I'm going to DC
Really? When are you going to DC?
tomorrow. Technically Alexandria, but we can take the metro into the city.
Oh, that's right. You have an extra bedroom?
Not in this one. Too bad.
Oh well.
Yeah.
So I'll probably go a little bit further south than you, then. I'm trying to figure out my route.
Yeah.
Well,
1,300 mile drive for me.
Ooh.
13 to 14 actually. St. Petersburg.
You're breaking that up into how many days?
I probably break it up into 2. My brother-in-law did it all in one. I think he's a freak show.
Yeah.
I don't know how you do that. I'm really impressed. That's an incredible amount of stamina.
Well, so is that it? We wrapped up.
My best day was 1,000-mile day when I was coming back from Florida around this time last year. But I think I'm going to shoot for 700 or 800. Yeah, we could wrap it up. Sorry, guys, to babble on. See you next week.
All right. We'll see everybody next week. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, everybody.